Welcome to the behind the scenes of our PD Talks Professional Development Sessions webinar series, where we have a chance to get to know a little bit more about our speakers. Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm here with my colleague, Jonathan Acuña Solano.
Hello, everyone.
The speaker of our next PD Talk coming up on May 29th. All right, now, Jonathan, I know you have a lot of teaching experience. Before we get into some of the details about your upcoming webinar, could you tell the people about how you got started as a language teacher and what you're doing these days?
Okay, as one of the things I was mentioning before, Mark, I'm not exactly what I would say a person who decided to become a teacher right on the spot. First thing is I got into English teaching because of a partner who offered me a job. And then I liked it. And I decided to become a teacher, even though I had studied English and linguistics. So let's say my English teaching is something that happened in life because I really like to work with people.
And so these days you're still a language teacher, but you also have a different role here at Centro Cultural.
Right. I'm working as a head of curriculum development here at Centro Cultural, but I continue my teaching at Universidad Latina, where I, from time to time, have courses either in the pre-graduate program or the postgraduate program.
Mm-hmm. Now, this won't be your first PD Talk. In fact, you are the person that has had the most talks in our series since we started 10 years ago. You were the very first PD Talk speaker way back in 2016, before they were even webinars, when we used to do them in person. And besides participating in these kind of events, preparing for and delivering talks, what else do you do to engage in professional development?
Well, one of the things that I have always thought is that we need to stay current, no matter what.
Yeah.
And being current implies that you need to obviously continue working on what you like in terms of your teaching. So you need to explore, you need to reflect. And that is why, for example, one of the things that I always do is try to at least take a course during the year, either with a platform such as Coursera or FutureLearn, which is like the version of the European version of Coursera. The European version of, Coursera was right. But at the same time, I always look for something else to do, reflect on the things that I'm doing in the classroom, do some kind of research on my own, and have some kind of classroom research as well that I like to, as I said, reflect on it, then come with ideas, try to experiment with things in the classroom, and then publish about them.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've always admired about you is your interest in research and in writing. You have a blog with how many posts by now?
I think it's 556 if I'm not wrong.
That you started more or less, 10, 12 years ago?
I started back in 2010, to be very specific.
Yeah, okay, so 16 years now of blogging. So could you walk us through a little bit of that process? I know anytime that you participate in a PD course or something like that, you usually reflect on that and write about it. So what does that process look like for you?
Well, everything, I guess, it started with a course that I took with the University of Oregon back in actually 2010 when I started my blog. And actually, it was because even though I was not certain of the term reflective journaling, because they didn't exactly use that thing at the University of Oregon. But that's exactly what we were doing. It's like thinking a little bit about what we were doing in our classrooms, and at the same time, think like how processes in the classroom can be improved, activities, or like any kind of delivery that we do with the students. So because of that, I decided then to start writing and blogging about those things that actually happen in the classroom. So again, I needed to see things black and white for me, but perhaps even the things that I've been publishing can make people see things differently as well.
Well, I wonder too, I mean, you have this record of your thinking process over the last 16 years. Do you ever look back at some of your older posts and rediscover ideas that you've forgotten, or see maybe how your ideas have changed and maybe don't really reflect the way that you think about teaching these days?
Well, I guess like the two things that you have mentioned are actually happening. So I sometimes go back and take a look at things that I wrote, say, in 2011. I said well, definitely I have changed my mind. I said this is not what I think now, but this is fine because it's part of my reflection and, let's say, professional development. But at the same time, I have gone back to things that I said, hey, I haven't tried this out in 10 years, for example. And then I retake that idea, go back into the classroom, and then perhaps I get to post something related to that again.
So maybe before we get specifically into the details about the talk that's coming up on May 29th, I'd like to ask you about some of the themes that you've been exploring recently, either in your blog or just in your own personal research and reading. What specific aspects of language teaching are you still curious about, or that have maybe captured your attention in the last couple of years?
Well, to be very honest, one of the other things that I've been doing, let's say at a very personal level, is to try to perfect my Portuguese.
Okay.
As a consequence, that has definitely made me rethink, especially Krashen's idea about this thing in terms of comprehensible input,
Right.
and how much that has helped me, for instance, improve the language, and how much now I'm reading, for example, in that specific language. So that's one of the things that I've been exploring and trying to reflect on my own learning process. Because in the end, it's the same with any kind of language that you're learning, meaning that the student is obviously exploring the language, learning new vocabulary, paying attention to the grammar, and trying to state things. I mean, like talking about like voicing opinions and things like that in that target language. So sometimes I find myself at home, trying to do the same thing, but in Portuguese this time around.
And so it's continuing to be a language learner as a language teacher and having that language learning experience inform the way you think about your job as a teacher.
Correct. That's basically what I mean. You just summarize the thing as is exactly what is happening now.
Well, I was doing something similar, as you know, with Costa Rican Sign Language last year. Unfortunately, I haven't kept up with it, but it was really enriching to be in the shoes of a learner. I'm curious, especially about this that you're talking about with Portuguese, because I think one of the maybe goals as a language teacher is to help our students get to a level where they can be independent users and they can start kind of seeking language exposure on their own outside of the classroom. But there's a certain threshold level that they need to be able to consume materials, right? And have them be comprehensible. But Portuguese is so similar to Spanish. It seems like that threshold is easier to achieve. What was your Portuguese learning process like before getting to the point where you're now just consuming authentic materials in Portuguese?
Well, I guess that I need to say that obviously, like most people, I decided to take a course. And well, I started, for example, a long time ago when I was at the university. And then obviously the idea was to work a little bit on it. And with this kind of Portuguese that I got at that specific level that I have, like, let's say, dormant for some time because I was not, doing much with it. I found myself with my wife in Lisbon, in Portugal, and I knew that the language that I had acquired was not that dormant. It was really awake, and I was able to communicate with people and find my way around the city. Now, obviously, things are a little bit different because, I mean, that happened some 8 years ago, more or less. So I decided that I needed to continue doing something with the language. But again, this has also helped me to reflect on the things that are obviously happening in the mind of the students when they are learning English in the English classroom.
All right, so I definitely want to save a little bit of time for us to talk about your upcoming talk. And I have my phone here because I want to make sure that I say the full title correctly.
Okay.
It's called Beyond Methodology, Power Skills Every ELT Teacher Needs for 2026 and Beyond. So I'm curious, what are power skills and maybe how are they different from a concept that we're a little more familiar with, like soft skills?
Okay. Power skills actually come from the literature that is used in the corporate world. And they are not exactly, obviously, as you said, soft skills. They are skills that we need nowadays, obviously, in the corporate world that can be fully transferable into the classroom. The very first thing is to understand that, obviously, artificial intelligence has come to take its place as your helper rather than a competitor in your teaching. On the other hand, teachers need to be much more resilient compared to what they used to be. I don't want to have, teachers who are burnt out. So something needs to be given to them so they can process things faster and in a way that they can definitely become more productive. That's what I wanted to say. And obviously, at the end is how, going back to artificial intelligence, this can be used as your secretary to produce things that we need, obviously, for the classroom and try to create things that we can differentiate learning for our learners.
So are you going to be addressing it mostly from the perspective of how teachers should embrace these power skills as a way of helping them do their job in a better way? Or will you also talk about potentially how teachers can incorporate power skills development among their students?
Well, I definitely want to focus much more on the teachers themselves rather
Okay.
than the students, because what I want them to do and experience through the PD Talk is, okay, come join me. Let's pay attention to the different breakout room activities that I'm going to be having with you. So you can definitely experience each one of these three things that I just mentioned. So then you can leave the session with something that you can employ as of the following week or your following teaching week.
Excellent. So something really practical. Again, coming up on May 29th, 3 p.m. Costa Rica time, Central America time. We're going to have Beyond Methodology, Power Skills Every EL Teacher Needs for 2026 and beyond. Again, with my colleague here, Jonathan Acuña Solano. So make sure you save the date and sign up in the link in the chat.
See you there.
Entonces en una pausa y